For years, NASCAR has always maintained that if one driver becomes too dominating, sooner or later the rulebook catches up. Let me ask you a question now. What happens if a single driver finds a benefit that all teams can observe, engineers can research, and crew chiefs can download, but no one can replicate? With Shane Van Gisbergen, that is precisely what is taking place. He's not just being referred to by drivers as NASCAR's top road racer. Some of them are acknowledging that they just can't drive the way he does. And now that he has won 6 of his previous 7 road course races, one awkward question is starting to come up in the garage. Will NASCAR eventually alter the regulations in order to prevent him? The answer isn't as straightforward as most fans believe, so stick with us to the very end. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to NASCAR Nation News if you like in-depth NASCAR stories that go beyond the headlines. That way, you won't miss our next analysis. Now let's get started. Many believe that Shane Van Gisbergen's performance would eventually slow down when he joined NASCAR. They thought veterans of the Cup Series would pick up his tricks. They thought that drivers like Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, and others would eventually narrow the gap thanks to their expertise. Rather, the reverse occurred. SVG continued to prevail. He has now won 8 races in just 16, Cup Series road and street course starts. Think about this to see how amazing that is. Many people consider Jeff Gordon to be among the best road course racers in NASCAR history. Gordon's 47 road course starts were needed to achieve 9 victories. Even though SVG has only participated in a small portion of those races, they are already 1 victory away from matching that record. 6 of those victories have occurred in his previous 7 road course competitions, which is even more remarkable. At this point, folks within the garage aren't asking if he's the favorite anymore. They are perplexed as to why no one can drive like him. The cockpit is where the solution begins. The vehicles that many drivers grew up racing are considerably different from the NASCAR Cup cars of today. Once the race starts, the sequential gearbox of today hardly needs the clutch. As a result, almost all Cup drivers keep their right foot poised for the accelerator while braking with their left. It has also become second nature after years of practice. SVG performs an entirely different function. He uses his right foot to brake. He simultaneously works the clutch with his left foot and rolls the side of his foot onto the throttle. It's the traditional heel and toe method. It's nothing exceptional to him. As SVG explained on Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast, "It's normal to me. I always heel toe and brake with my right foot. I've been doing it since I was a child. In a rally car, I only learned how to brake with my left foot last year." Everyone else's struggles can be explained by just one line. This was not something he discovered yesterday. For the majority of his racing career, he has been doing this. Why is that important, then? Because switching gears isn't the only aspect of heel and toe. It alters the entire vehicle's behavior when it turns a bend. The engine momentarily stops pushing at the back tires as SVG flicks the clutch. This keeps the rear tires calmer during severe braking and lessens driveline shock. It was aptly summarized by Dale Earnhardt Jr. before entering a bend. He clarified, "SVG can really feel the back tires starting to jump. They then gently push the clutch to settle the car as a whole. Better tire life and smoother braking are the outcomes." The second benefit occurs when entering a corner. According to SVG, the car rotates naturally toward the apex when the clutch is released at the precise moment. The car rotates more voluntarily rather than resisting the front tires. The corner exit arrives at last. There is hardly any abrupt jolt when power is restored because heel and toe precisely synchronizes engine speed with the lower gear. The vehicle maintains its equilibrium. As a result, SVG is able to surge ahead of everyone else while their cars are still settling. This is, of course, the obvious question. Why doesn't everyone simply imitate him? They've tried the straightforward solution. Joey Logano intended to use right foot braking for the whole Watkins Glen weekend. During practice, he gave up on the notion. Austin Cindric even contested a supercars event in Australia seeking to acquire the skill. When he went back to NASCAR, it still didn't translate. Ross Chastain acknowledged that he struggles to maintain his feet on the right pedals. "I've learned my way, and at 33 it's tough," Chastain remarked. "I can do it intentionally for like a corner or 3, and then I go back to my way." At Indianapolis, Kyle Busch put his heel and toe to the test. He lost about 0.5 seconds every lap instead of gaining speed. "I know how to do it," Busch said, "but it's really awkward." Kyle Larson was even more straightforward. I have no possibility of learning how to accomplish that. Even Denny Hamlin, who used right-footed braking in his early career, acknowledged that it would be very challenging to go back now. Not grasping the method is the issue. Years of muscle memory are being replaced by it. The fact that SVG isn't concealing anything is even more bizarre. SMT data is available to all NASCAR teams. This implies that every brake application, throttle input, and bend may be studied by engineers. Everyone has access to the information. However, possessing the facts does not imply have the skill. There is extremely limited practice time for Cup teams. There is hardly any open testing. 15 years of driving habits cannot be completely erased in a single practice session. Because of this, a large number of drivers freely acknowledge that they are well aware of what SVG is doing. They simply aren't physically capable of doing it alone. However, this is when the narrative takes a surprising turn. SVG doesn't even think heel and toe is the main factor contributing to his success. He pushed back when Dale Earnhardt Jr. questioned him about it. It's not a significant benefit, in my opinion. I will say that, of course, but that's all I've ever known. Instead, SVG pointed towards something else. He learned how to preserve tires throughout a race from his experience with Australian supercars. And other NASCAR drivers have observed exactly that. Chase Briscoe referred to him as one of the world's top road racers after he finished second to SVG at Sonoma. According to A.J. Allmendinger, SVG maintains the tire beneath him without aggravating it. Few fans even notice what Connor Zilisch pointed out. SVG frequently choose not to achieve full power as soon as possible, when most drivers do. In order to preserve the tires for the next 20 laps, he sacrifices a small amount of speed in one corner. And that differential grows significantly over the course of a whole race. What role does NASCAR play in this, then? There have been recent rumors that NASCAR may eventually take over. In the garage, a number of concepts have been discussed. To make heel and toe more challenging, one hypothesis proposes standardizing pedal spacing. Another proposal would completely stop using the clutch after the race has begun. The most radical recommendation calls for altering the differential settings, which SVG has acknowledged is directly related to how he acquired this driving style. Here's the crucial information, though. In reality, none of those changes have occurred. Horsepower and aerodynamic modifications were the main topics of NASCAR's most recent technical revisions. Nothing officially targeted the clutch, pedal box, or differential. However, history clarifies why individuals are conversing. NASCAR eventually investigates any significant competitive advantage discovered by one team or driver. The rules don't always change. They don't all the time. This is the reason that this discussion won't end anytime soon. Shane Van Gisbergen has already achieved something amazing, regardless of whether NASCAR eventually makes any changes. Heel and toe were not invented by him. He merely served as a reminder to a whole generation of NASCAR drivers that traditional racing techniques are still superior to contemporary ones. That might be the greatest surprise of all. Everyone in the garage is well aware of what he is doing. Some have even attempted to imitate him. However, they are still pursuing him a year later. We would like to hear from you now. Should NASCAR allow talent choose the winner instead of following the rules? If a driver's technique becomes nearly hard to imitate, should the sport take over? Let us know your opinions in the comments below.